Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we do have a pretty big update. Finally, something from Ipollo. They are releasing a new series of chips. These things are very efficient. They are actual competitors to that yet to be released Jasminer X44 series. We do have some of the initial specs. We do have somewhat confirmation of it. We don't have too much more info other than that. In reality, we've just been waiting for confirmation, and we finally do kind of have that. So hopefully as time goes by, we will start seeing more info here to really be able to dissect, right? So we'll talk about it. We'll compare it to the other ASICs so you can see why this thing is a pretty significant upgrade and kind of the significance of it, right? So we'll compare it to the others, see how it stacks up, and why, at least for me, this is a pretty exciting announcement here, okay? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So this thing has been on Russian social media websites for about a month now. Been waiting for anything official though. That's what have not found anything until now. So we'll talk about what we have found. But pictured here, shout out to this Russian YouTube channel at From China with Love 1 that does have a actual little video clip of it. Okay, so you can see here, this is the smaller at-home model. Very similar to that one Ipollo that released that looked very similar to a GPU, the very weird one. So very similar in design, or at least size-wise. Design-wise, obviously different. Does have that little screen. So just kind of giving a little bit more confirmation to the fact. But the one official confirmation was a press release from what seems to be Ipollo's parent company. Okay, so this for me was the kind of like, okay, yeah, it's definitely a real kind of thing. So Nano Labs launches second generation V series with 5x power efficiency boost. So Nano Labs, not sure if it's their actual parent company or it's just the company who's providing their chips. It seems like a very similar relationship with Goldshell and INT. Nano Labs is actually listed on the NASDAQ, which is a little bit interesting. So to sum it up, we're not going to read the whole thing. Powered by the advanced Cuckoo 3.0 chips, such new generation series consisting of V2, V2H, and V2X models. So there's at least 3 models coming. The V2X is that smaller guy, which is a tiny one. The V2H, if you guys remember the V1H, which was that hydro unit, expect to see that variation. So like a larger at-home unit, and the V2 may actually be a bigger boy unit. We don't fully know. We're going to have to wait to see till they reveal the others. We only have limited info on the V2X model. We do have specs actually for the V2H, and realistically, it's going to be the same efficiency most likely across the board, right? It's going to be that same series of chips, just in different form factors. Okay. So about Nano Labs, down at the bottom is a leading fabless integrated circuit design company and production solution provider in China. Nano Labs is committed to the development of high throughput computing chips, etc., etc. As we go down and even just Google it, you can kind of see the relationships there. Ipollo has talked about Nano Labs, kind of further confirming their relationship there. So again, this was a press release from Nano Labs released on November 22nd, essentially confirming the models. Now, what we did find is an actual vendor listing one of the models. Kind of limited info though. So the Ipollo V2X, which again, this is the model that was shown in that little video clip. This is the smaller one, and this is where it gets extremely interesting. This is where the efficiency comes to play. 1200 mega hash, pretty impressive. What's more impressive, let's see if they have it even listed on here, is the wattage. No, they have it listed at 1200. Oh, here in the description, 165, and that's what was also in the previous leaks. Okay, so this does seem to be the efficiency, bringing you to a 0.1375 joules to mega hash, which is extremely efficient. We'll go over the others so you can see kind of the extent of it here in a moment. But 1200 mega hash for only 165 watts. Extremely appealing. We do have specs for the V2H, and that guy is going to be 3400 mega hash, right? So kind of in the spectrum of that Bombax unit, but at only 475 watts. So even, again, scaling up, it's more efficient than that Bombax unit. We'll do a little more in-depth here comparison in a second. But very efficient unit. We don't have official price points. I don't know if this is speculated on their end. This may be the newer MSRP, On the original leaks, they had it at $7.99, but again, that was prior to the pumps. Okay, so what we really want to know is release dates. They listed it at April 2025. If that's the case, this is quite a ways out, right? This is still interesting to see where they're going to price it at, though, because again, it'll give us some kind of idea where the Jasminer X44 might lay, right? We know the specs on the Jasminer. We don't have really price points yet, right? So the fact that this is somewhat close in efficiency, it's a good thing, right? Especially for price comparisons, right? At this point, at least there is now a competitor to it, because right now, as it is, the X44 was kind of blowing everything else out of the water. So let's keep in mind that efficiency, the 0.1375, let's compare it to some of the others. And this is the thing where we've been kind of dogging Ipollo. They didn't release anything this whole time. So their most efficient unit as it is right now, the Ipollo V1 Mini SE Plus, 0.58 joules of mega hash efficiency, which again, it's a very significant upgrade with this new guy. It's nearly 4 times as efficient. Okay. One thing I didn't mention here with this guy, at least with the smaller unit, again, we have to wait to get confirmation for the larger units, is the RAM. Okay, this was also mentioned in the other leaks that it has 6 gigs of RAM. So that is potentially a limiting factor depending on the coins, right? So like ETH, for example, you're going to need more RAM. Okay, so just make sure you fully understand that. Kind of a similar limitation with like the Bombax unit. Okay, so that is kind of unfortunate. It is possible that the bigger units have more RAM, right? We're going to have to wait and see until we get fully official specs for all of them. But as of now, this is both the V2X and V2H were listed with this. Okay. So a nice upgrade over this guy. The V1H, again, when this one released, extremely confusing because of how bad the efficiency was. Again, this one came afterwards and the efficiency was worse. The difference is like even more massive here. But comparing it to a more true competitor, and this is more of like the standard essentially, is the X16Q. In reality, if you're thinking of getting any ethash, ETC ASICs, this should kind of be the barrier. You don't want to go anything less efficient than this, right? So this guy coming in at 0.32. Okay, so a little more than 2 times as efficient, this newer guy, than this current Jasminer. Okay, so pretty big. Again, the current Ipollo is going to be 0.1375, so pretty good size difference there. Now comparing it to the Bombax, which again was a very impressive unit when it came out, the Bombax is at 0.2. So yes, the Ipollo is even beating this Bombax unit. And it doesn't beat the Jasminer X44 though. Okay, it's pretty damn close though. 0.1375 from the Ipollo, 0.1 from the X44Q. Okay, so the big thing is going to be price points. Okay, price points, the one other advantage that the Jasminer is going to have is the 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, but again, reality, the price is what we need to know, and release dates, all we kind of have for the Jasminer is Q1. I think somebody asked on Twitter and they were saying January. Nothing super official there yet, and again, we're waiting to see what happens with the Ipollo, but again, we want to see this competition because it's better for the consumer. Maybe they're more a little competitive with these prices. Okay. Now looking as far as profitability and such, again, this is going to be for the small guy, and essentially we can just scale up for the larger ones. Again, the V2H essentially is a little under 3 of the smaller guys. Okay. But as we look down for that small unit, of course, right now it's not super appealing. But again, if it's going to be in that price range where it's like under $1,000, not too bad for what it is, right? So ETC, your revenue would be $239, $1.99 profit after electric. Again, 165 watts is essentially nothing. And then it just kind of depends on your strategy here, right? Some people are just going to go straight ETC. Some people do the unmineable thing and just use it for something else. Me personally, my appeal would be Octaspace. That's what I would probably be having it on. You can also degen into some of the smaller cap coins, such as Zether. Like, for example, currently that is still the most profitable. So if we go on like hashrate.no, we have the Jasminer up. It is bringing in the most revenue out of all of them. So this is kind of what, at least for me, makes this smaller guy extremely appealing, because we know with ethash and ETC ASICs, there are a lot of coin options. And what do you think is going to happen as this bull market progresses? We're going to see more of this, right? So like Zeta, for example, an extremely small market cap coin. I think it's under 300,000. So a lot of upside, so allows you to degen. So something that is only about 165 watts, it makes it very appealing to have potentially one on something highly speculative, maybe a larger unit on something you feel more confident in, and then whether it's that, Octa, EW, whatever it may be, whatever you have the most confidence in. Okay, and then one other thing to know is efficiency is always definitely important, but it also kind of depends on the extent of the price differences and the extent of your farm, or how much hash rate you actually want to accrue. Okay, so percentage wise, massive difference. But again, you have to think real world situations. If you're only going to plan on having one or two of these little small at home units, you have to see if that price difference is going to be worth it. Okay, in the case with, we can do a quick little comparison with the Jasminer. The Jasminer's coming in at 1900 mega hash, which when we compare it to that new little guy, the V2X, it's about 1.5x of those. Okay, so if we were to do that, theoretically, obviously you can't split it in half, but it would bring you up to what? 1.8 gigahash, so 1800 mega hash at about 240 watts. So 240 watts versus the 600 here. It's going to be dependent on how much those 400 watts kind of mean to you to an extent, right? You're going to have to see the price difference. Obviously, if the price to hash is fairly close, you're going to want to go with what's more efficient and what's more reliable. Ipollo has been around. As far as quality goes, realistically, my pick would probably be the Jasminer. I know quite a few of you guys did have issues with the Ipollos. Some didn't, though, so it's kind of to each your own on that front. But the pricing is what's really going to dictate things here. Okay, and the fact that if this V2X does come out, what do you think is potentially likely to happen here? At least before the pump, there's potential that this one may get repriced depending on the competition. Okay, and again, that's why we want the competition. We want to see the manufacturers compete, because in a sense, it's going to be better for us, right? We want to see these lower prices, at least prior to these pumps, right? This is the hard part, and this is where if this thing isn't going to release until April 2025, that's what makes it extremely hard, because as we've seen with Doge, once that pump happens, prices escalate literally within a few hours, okay? And they can get to the point where they're no longer attainable, or where kind of just doesn't make sense, right? Right now, a lot of these are still priced at rock bottom prices, although most of them have gone up. In general, when we do our ASIC mining pricing update video here in a couple days, pretty much everything across the board, even those algos that haven't necessarily pumped massively, have gone up quite a bit. Okay. So again, just to sum up, as far as the top two, it's going to be this Ipollo, this new series of chips. Again, we have 2 confirmed models, or 3 actually. That press release did confirm 3, V2, V2H, which is going to be a smaller version. I'm guessing the V2 is going to be a big boy. V2H being a smaller version, the V2X being this little 165 water. So again, 0.1375 joules to mega hash efficiency. So not exactly on par with the X44, but pretty damn close. Again, this is going to be the other standard. This reality currently is going to be the gold standard at 0.1 joules a mega hash. Okay, so again, a true competitor here. We have to wait to see till we get more details, but I would expect to see something, more resellers listing these things, or more specific details, or a press release from Ipollo themselves here any moment, right? Let's continue on. So as far as what you can mine, again, it's going to be up to you. We are still early. Like, yes, you can look at the fiat profitability, but again, my thing is yield all day. So it just depends on what you want to do. And things are already looking good, right? If you haven't noticed, there is a little mini altcoin season going on, and a lot of things are running. Even things that aren't necessarily the most popular. ETH Classic is doing its thing, right? If you look at how much has gone up on the 1 month, 70%. Okay, pretty significant. The prices have gone up, but they're still to the point where they're somewhat reasonable. How high it's going to go, is it going to see this thing again? Is it not? That's something you got to look into. ETC isn't necessarily something I'd be super bullish on holding. If anything, again, my main appeal, Octaspace would definitely be one. Again, it's in that AI narrative. Very good tokenomics. It's had a good bear run thus far. Obviously, right now it is struggling a bit, but again, if you want to get in, that's kind of what you want to see. Tiny, tiny market cap here, guys. $47 million market cap. Okay, so definitely a lot of upside potential. Like, yes, when you look at the profitability, it's like, oh, it's making less. It's $227, $1.88. But again, it's potential, right? If Octa does even somewhat okay, it's very likely it's going to outperform ETC, for example, right? Because ETC being a much, much larger coin, it's currently ranked number 29, $4.64 billion market cap. Okay, so Octa being another one. Another interesting one is ETHW. This one, and this is where the 8 gigs kind of comes into play. This is something you won't be able to do if it is in fact only 6 gigs. This is going to be a Jasminer thing. And this is where it gets kind of interesting because of the hash rate, right? The fact that it's limited, or not limited, but only essentially right now those 8 gig and up models will be able to mine this thing. This is where you can have a slight advantage with the Jasminer. There's potential that maybe the hash rate doesn't go up as significantly if this thing continues to pump, which it's kind of been on and off. In the September low, it was $1.76. It has done over a 2x since then, currently at $3 and about 70 cents. Okay, and this is one that's interesting because it's still a fairly big coin, $395 million market cap, ranked number 174. And this is something that's actually even on US exchange. It's on Kraken actually, which kind of unusual considering what's listed on Kraken. It's weird that this kind of made it over others, but that's the case, right? So this is definitely one to watch. Is it one that I would mine and hold? Probably not, but if there's times where it's the most profitable, be mining it and selling it to others, right? Another one to factor in is, like we mentioned with the other one, was Zether, right? So Zether is listed on ZegX. It's not even on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. It's still a tiny, tiny coin. Again, $290,000 market cap. And this is kind of what makes, again, these smaller guys interesting. Having one smaller unit and maybe a bigger unit. One you could run on one of these more degen coins. Because, again, we're probably going to see more of this, right? I haven't even realistically looked too much into Zether. But the fact that it's early on, there's going to be a little bit of hype associated with it because of it where it's at. Has potential. Same with like Larissa, for example, which that one's been around. Not too big on that one because it has been around a bit. But you do have those options, and the fact that you can have some of these little 165 waters, or even just the Jasmine or the 16Q mining something more speculative, and then having one of these more efficient units be on your main higher conviction play, whether it's ETC, whether it's Octa, ETHPOW, whatever, whether it's a Jasmine or one of these Ipollos, it makes it interesting. And for me, the reason we're kind of going a little in depth and a little all over the place is because this is an algo that I'm very still interested in, and specifically in this segment. I don't necessarily want a huge 3,000 water. These are known to be much more efficient. I wouldn't mind having a couple of these smaller at-home units because I feel that this is one that may potentially also do well beyond the bull market. And at the same time, any of these that are, for example, under 1,000 watts, like this guy being 600 and change, the Jasminer also being under 800 watts, makes it appealing to run potentially in a bear market because it's not that hard to pay that out of pocket. Okay, paying multiple 3,500 waters out of pocket is quite the burden, right? And it's something that has so far paid off extremely, extremely well. But I don't know to what extent I'll do it next bear market if we do it at all, or if we stick to more efficient things, or we go into GPUs. Reality, it's going to be a timing thing. What releases by then, a lot of factors into play there, right? But this is definitely an algo that I am definitely super, super interested in and will likely be purchasing and getting some of these units, right? To what extent, I don't know. Realistically, again, my criteria with a lot of the ASICs, I want latest and greatest, ideally. But specifically with these ethash ASICs, I wouldn't mind having a couple of the others, again, to degen on some of these more speculative plays. Okay, so kind of teach your own on their strategy on what's going forward. I'm going to be very intriguing to see if they do have a big model, if this V2 is like a over 2,000 watt or some kind of a bigger boy unit. Going to be interesting. Really curious about what the MSRP will be and how Jasminer responds. Again, we don't have an exact price points for any of the X44 series. Some vendors have listed guesstimations, but again, until we see something official from them, it's purely speculative, right? Even on the Ipollo front, again, what was initially rumored with this little V2X was $800, but most recently now BT Miners has it at that price. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens there. But again, as we've mentioned, guys, expect to see this. Everything is happening earlier. My bet wasn't we wouldn't see altcoins pump until Q1, which is why we were saying that don't expect to see a lot of new ASICs until Q1. But because everything is accelerating, we're seeing it happen now, right? In case you didn't notice, with all these damn script ASICs, and now some of these, we're going to continue to see these new releases, right? And it's going to, seems like it's coming earlier than what we expected. Okay, so I'll definitely keep you posted because it's definitely something I'm super interested in. I really want to see these price points, and I really want to see where Jasminer prices these guys at, right? So we'll see what other competitors come out. Again, ethash does have a lot of manufacturers, so kind of like, especially if ETC continues to pump, especially leading into December, January, expect to see, just like what we saw with Script, all these random manufacturers also coming out releasing their own variations. Will they be as efficient as this guy? We don't know. Will Bitmain come out and do an E11, a final upgrade to the E9? We'll have to wait and see, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Are you guys kind of excited about it? Let me know how any of you guys with those little V1 minis have held up. Any of you guys have any of those? Have they actually held up this entire bear market? Have you had issues? Would you buy Ipollo again? Kind of let us know for you guys who have had those units. I personally never purchased any. So that way it'll give us an idea of what to expect with these new guys, right? So please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And